Welcome back to another Dexter New Blood review. This week, episode 6, Too Many Tuna Sandwiches. Now, that title kind of perfectly exemplifies this whole episode, because it's just a random line that Dexter says that has no importance or meaning or significance whatsoever, and he just says it, and that's the title of this episode, which makes a lot of sense, because this is easily the worst episode of the show so far. It's completely middling and takes about 45 minutes to get interesting again, and yeah, it's just kind of... Wait. Too many tuna sandwiches? What if the tuna sandwiches are a metaphor for serial killers? Because Dexter's found out there's another serial killer, and maybe there's only room for one serial killer in Iron Lakes. Lots to ponder on. Unlike this episode. But let's do it anyway! 3 big yays and then 3 big nays. Big nay number 1. Dexter the Dad, living in a boring, unfunny, cliche sitcom this episode with things like, oh no, my son snuck out of the house and he slept with a girl, better handle that. Oh no, my girlfriend's angry at me. Oh, there's a big high school sports game, better make it to that game, better see my son in the sports game. So much of this episode felt like a middling in-between episode, and that's normally totally fine for a show. I mean, you need those kind of breather episodes in between the big set-piece moments and stuff. But this is like not really a normal show, and so I'm kind of less forgiving of it. We've got 10 episodes to fix Dexter, to fix the original series, especially season 8, and you've only got 10 episodes, and every episode you spend kind of twiddling your thumbs and kind of meandering about. It's just wasting good potential. The last 2 episodes really clearly for me set up big stakes and big things that were going to kind of start coming to a head, and this episode really kind of just went, no, we'll deal with that next episode, or maybe the next one, or the next one, and it's starting to really worry me again, the way kind of earlier episodes did, where I'm like, I don't think this is going to wrap up as satisfying and like in such an epic way that they've kind of promised. I mean, he said this is going to blow up the internet. That finale is going to blow up the internet. We've only got 4 more episodes, and I can't see that happening at this point. There's a lot of really exciting stuff with Harrison and Dexter, their dark passengers, it all being found out, Dexter's true like Bay Harbor Butcherness kind of being revealed, and to get that hunt for the Bay Harbor Butcher part 2 that we kind of need to have in these last couple of episodes, and we're really starting to get close to that not being possible at all. Like, Angel wasn't mentioned in this episode at all, and an episode without Angel at this point is a disappointment. And what about that moment where Dexter smiled and he was happy that Harrison had the dark passenger? That hasn't been brought up at all in the last 2 episodes. And it's like, are we coming back to that? Or is that just like a little flicker? Because I want that to be a main story element, not just a little cheeky cliffhanger and remind me that like I do want to tune in next week, you know? Big nay number 2. Jim Lindsey is actually Dexter Morgan. Wow. Crazy. Insane. What an amazing thing to happen so early in the season. It blew my mind that this happened so early. And now this episode, I understand why it happened last week so early in the season, because it's not going to be the giant explosive reveal that I thought it was going to be. She essentially pulls him up. There's a little play on that first episode where they have the worst introduction ever, where they're like flirting. She's like, oh, I fake arrest you. Well, this time she really does arrest him. And at first, that's like, oh, that's kind of fun, you know, playing on something that was terrible, and now it's going to be good. Oh, no, it's still going to be kind of terrible. Because she just kind of says, hey, you're Dexter. And he's like, yep, I'm Dexter. I was sad. I left. And that's it. She's very mad at him and everything, but it doesn't have the weight and importance and significance and leading down a dark road that I thought it was going to have. It just kind of feels like, oh no, my girlfriend's angry at me, but have some beers with the boys and figure out how to get out of the doghouse. It's not really the way I wanted this reveal to be handled. And yeah, it just feels kind of a bit off and just feels a bit pushed under the rug, which is kind of really disappointing. And what's worse is she didn't even call Angel, like, hey, Angel, you know one of your best friends that you said was dead? Turns out, he's my boyfriend. Are we not setting up Angel to come into the show for the last few episodes? By putting Angel in this show, you've set up a Chekhov's gun of Angel and Dexter having a face-off. Finally, someone we care about coming back from the original series, and they can have the showdown that season 8 never gave us. And that's the ending I want to see. And at this point, it really doesn't feel like we're going to be getting that. And it's really disappointing. I'm really like scared that Angel's not going to be in the show again. Because why didn't she call him? Why wasn't that the thread that's going to get him into Iron Lakes for future episodes? So that when everything starts unveiling, we get our Bay Harbor Butcher Part 2 hunt and the manhunt and all that kind of stuff that I'm hoping this show kind of ends on with the last few episodes. Angel's involved and they can have their big showdown, their big like moment where everything kind of comes out. Because this isn't just a final season for Dexter. This needs to be a final season for all 9 seasons of Dexter. Not just this Dexter New Blood. Like it's really only there to fix season 8. And Angel is the perfect way to fix it. And I don't really want the final episodes to be with just random characters. Like a bloody cop girlfriend character who I can't remember the name of. It's Angela. I googled it. Which beautifully leads me into big nay number 3, Angela. Dexter's cop girlfriend, I guess now ex-girlfriend character. Blech. She's meant to kind of be like the emotional weight outside of Dexter and Harrison, and at this point, she's just not bringing it. She's not being given the right material between her and Dexter for me to like care about their relationship. So when she's like, I don't want to see Jim Lindsey anymore, I'm not like, oh, how did it come to this? I'm just like, I don't really care. Can we get to some more interesting storylines? I thought you were going to call Angel. Why didn't you call Angel, Angela? I'll never forgive you. What's worse is her whole plot has been leading up to this moment where she finds her long-lost friend who is dead, which we all knew she was dead, so it's not like a shocking reveal or anything. So it's kind of the weight of that was meant to be the emotional punch coming from the character, and I just didn't feel anything. And I'm kind of like, I want to feel something. Like, I'm not watching this show being like, I hate all these characters and I just love to hate them all. It's like, no, I would love if all these characters were amazing and interesting. But so far, up to episode 6, none of them have really been giving me anything. And I think Angela's the main point of that kind of like, it all comes to the pinnacle of her character. If she's not working, Dexter's girlfriend, who's also a cop, who's investigating the other serial killer of the year, all this stuff, like, if she's not working, it's not working. And that's why I think I'm so desperate for someone like Angel to come into the show. And that's why it's so enjoyable to see the Dexter and Harrison stuff. Because Harrison's working. That actor's working. The story and the character and the characterization, it's all working. Angela, just not working. That final moment of her finding the body and like all this kind of stuff is meant to be this big emotional gut punch. And I was just like, all right, like, cool. At least the plot's moving. But that doesn't really, I didn't feel anything the way the show really wants you to feel something. And I find that really disappointing, and it's just a shame. Like, they could have just, I'm not even sure what I would want to do differently, but you've got to do a lot differently, because a lot for me is just kind of feeling just a bit like, eh? And it's not working when the most interesting thing they do is when she's like, I don't need Jim Lindsey, I need Dexter Morgan. And I'm like, oh yeah, Dexter Morgan, the blood spatter analyst. He's going to come and he's going to do his little forensic CSI, the blood matches, the blood doesn't match it, and figure it all out, which is super exciting. And that's the most exciting I've felt with her saying anything. But that really is just because of Dexter, completely to do with Dexter, and what I'm excited for Dexter to do, going forward. It has nothing to do with her. On the plus side, Deb hasn't shown up in this week's 3 big nays, so I mean, that's a plus. As long as she's not so bad that she makes the list, I can bear her. At least she's not the worst part of the show anymore. Big yay number 3. The town's insane, baffling love for high school wrestling sporting events. There are so many people at that sporting event. They are absolutely loving it as well. Like, they're not just watching and being like, yeah, I guess my son's down there, I gotta be here, support him and stuff. They're all like getting up and cheering and like, ah, ah, and like fist pumping and getting right into it. And it's like, okay, I get that you can't play like American football or like whatever other big sports out there because of the snow or whatever, I have to presume. You guys don't have like ice hockey or something? Like wrestling. High school wrestling is like your go-to sport? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's like a common thing, but it just seems so insane. And I do understand. It's like, well, no, we want to just have Harrison like have a wrestling match with someone and like show his dark passenger to everybody. But I just could not get past the fact that all these people are here cheering for high school wrestling. It just kind of baffled and delighted me, of course. But yeah, just a weird one for me. I just like, I don't know why it couldn't like get past my little brain, but I was just like, that's the sport you chose? I wanted to see some ice hockey. That's probably it. I think I just wanted to see some ice hockey. Ice hockey's cool. Big yay number 2. Dexter finally reveals the question we've all been waiting to hear for 10 years. Why did Dexter sail into that hurricane? Why did he choose to be reborn a lumberjack? This week, Dexter literally he just says, I sailed into that hurricane. And I was like, whoa. That's so weird to hear. Like, super surreal. Dexter for 10 years has been the show that ended on this baffling, insane moment where he just sailed into a hurricane to be reborn a lumberjack. And to have the character of Dexter now retrospectively being written by someone else be like, handle this moment. And for him to actually say the words, yeah, I sailed into that hurricane. It was like, whoa. It's so bold of the writers to even address this. Like, so much of this show has been addressing season 8, which I thought they would just kind of like be like, it's there, it happened, but let's not really talk about it. But this episode to just go right into it, right into the meat of it all. And for Dexter to kind of acknowledge that, yeah, like, I abandoned my son. Like, so much of this show has been about the abandonment of Harrison. It's really interesting. But then the big moment is he just says like, yeah, I tried to commit suicide. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, they're like going right for it. I kind of don't think that I buy Dexter committing suicide or trying to commit suicide. Like, I understand that he was sad over Deb, but there's like a moment in the original series, I cannot remember what part of the show is, and I'm not going to go and rewatch it all just for this moment. But he definitely says at one point that he would never commit suicide. And he goes into it, and he has this whole thing about it. I remember that just sticking out when I heard this today and being like, I feel like it. But I guess he changed his mind. People can change their mind, whatever. But it is kind of amazing that we now know, like, season 8 isn't now just this baffling moment where he's like, I guess I'm sailing into the hurricane. And you're like, what's he doing? And then suddenly he's a lumberjack. And you're like, what? What does this mean? What are they trying to get from us? Like, what are they trying to say and do with this finale? Well, now he tried to kill himself. And then he changed his mind. And I guess he had this epiphany where he's like, I didn't want to die. Well, I didn't die, so I guess now I'll go chop wood, because I guess that's better than chopping up bodies. And it's like, okay, probably could have changed your mind and gone back to Harrison, but you know what? Damage done. We can't change that now. But yeah, despite my kind of trepidations on the whole suicide and that would he actually do that as a character and all that stuff, I really think it was just completely bold, and the balls on the writers to even address that moment was kind of exciting. And just to hear him say, I sailed into the hurricane, I'm like, oh, Dexter. Oh, Dexter, the character. If you knew how angry you made the internet by doing that, I don't think you would have done it. Big yay, number 1. Kurt, the serial killer. Now, last week, Kurt killed his victim, but the ritual wasn't completed in the way that he needs it to be. So this week, he's still trying to feed his dark passenger. And so it's kind of put him on edge, which makes him far more frightening as a villain, and probably the most scary he's been so far. Because at any point, he could just snap. Like, at any moment, the facade, like his mask could just crack and the real Kurt could come bursting through and just be all like, kill, kill, kill. So there was that kind of on edge kind of feeling to the whole episode. And that really built up to that point where he's taking the podcaster to his like remote kill house. But it kind of felt like it just kind of subsided and the tension kind of just disappeared. When Dexter arrived, and I'm kind of like, I just feel like this isn't going to go anywhere. And Dexter's just going to get out of there with her. And Dexter's just like, sees the kill room and he's like, I guess Kurt's the serial killer now. And it's like, okay, I guess now Dexter knows he's the serial killer. Just like that. It just feels a bit like so many moments with Kurt this season just feel like they've just happened and there's been no weight and feeling behind them. They just kind of happen. And you're like, okay, Dexter knows now that he's the serial killer. Okay. And like, it happened earlier where like he's wearing a mask for so many episodes and then suddenly he's just not wearing the mask. And I'm like, there wasn't really a moment where it's like the reveal or anything like that. And it just felt like the show was like, oh, you didn't guess it at this point? It's been all sus and you didn't see his eyes, or you didn't hear the casting announcement where we said that actor was going to be the serial killer of the year. Like, I don't know. It's him. I'm like, okay. It feels weird that you kind of like hid it for so long and now it's just a reveal. It kind of feels like stuff was cut or something. Or maybe they had a big moment and they went, it's a bit cheesy. He takes his mask off and he's like, it's me to the camera or something. Or he just winks. He's like, I'm the serial killer. Kurt's not working for me fully yet, but each episode we are getting a little bit more and it's becoming more and more clear that he is just kind of a big angry brute. So I'm kind of hoping for like a kind of a humanizing element to him. And I'm hoping that comes with the revelation of what is his ritual. Like, why is he doing that ritual? Kind of similar how we got with Trinity. And just to kind of humanize him, we're not going to like him as a character. He's a monster. He's doing awful things. We never really side with the serial killers of the year. We always just side with Dexter. But I would still like to have like that bit of humanity in him before we get the inevitable moment we're all waiting for, where he's on Dexter's kill table and Dexter's like, I killed Matt, and he's like, no, my boy, and he tries to break out of it, maybe breaks out of a little bit, and then Dexter kills him and has that big moment. The most awful and disturbing part of this episode definitely came when Kurt's trying to put the mask on the blown out part of the victim's face, trying to like repair it and fix it, because clearly he can't, I don't know, his ritual needs them to be perfect or look a certain way. And even the mask he's putting on, which is disturbing as it doesn't work. He starts punching the face. It's just so awful and disturbing. It was kind of the most emotion and horror I felt this show has done so far. For a show about a serial killer who kills other serial killers and is a serial killer. This show is at times been very dark and horrible, but now we're getting towards the end. I kind of want to have more moments like that. Like, I don't want them, but this is the show it is. It's an awful, horrible show about an evil serial killer man. So I kind of feel like those moments that are just true horror. I'm really hoping for more of that as we go, and less of like, oh no, Harrison slept with the girl. What am I gonna do? I'm Dexter the Dad. Despite not loving this episode, I still ended this episode and was suddenly just like, oh my god, I really wish I could just put on the next episode. I wish I could just binge this. This happens every episode I don't love. It ends and I'm just like, oh, I wish there was another episode to watch. So clearly it's doing something right. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks. Is everyone like big yays or big nays? Like, am I right? Is this episode kind of a letdown compared to what's come before? Yeah, comment below. Let me know. Let me know all your thoughts and theories. I'd love to hear what people think are going to happen towards the end of this and for the finale. And most importantly, what are everyone's thoughts about my metaphor for too many tuna sandwiches? What do you think too many tuna sandwiches was meant to mean? Was it just simply a line? Were they just like, oh no, we don't have a line for this episode. What are we going to call this episode? And someone's like, I don't know. Put their finger on the script and they're like, too many tuna sandwiches. And someone's just like, whatever, I don't care. Just whatever. No one looks at the episode titles. I do look at the episode titles. I do. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, all the bloody things. And check out my other podcasts. Two Brothers, One Pilot, Top and Tail, and Spoiler Talk. Links in the description.